We apologize for interrupting your doom scrolling. Now, for some positive leftist news.
PLN is a member of MeansTV, a worker-owned socialist streaming platform. Stay tuned until the end of the episode for a special 20% discount offer from MeansTV, and find the discount link and code in the description box below. On August 3rd, Sydney witnessed one of the largest pro-Palestine demonstrations in Australian history, as up to 300,000 people marched across the Harbour Bridge demanding an end to Israel's war on Gaza and calling on the Albanese government to sanction Israel and recognize Palestinian statehood. Defying both harsh weather conditions and political opposition, the March for Humanity brought together a sea of people carrying Palestinian flags, umbrellas, pots, and pans to symbolize Gaza's forced hunger. Among those marching were Julian Assange, former Foreign Minister Bob Carr, federal MP Ed Husic, Green Senator Marine Faruqi, and at least half a dozen NSW Labour MPs defying Premier Chris Minns' attempts to block the protest. Despite several police attempts to curtail the march, the protest remained peaceful, determined, and defiant. And on August 24th, a nationwide rally was held across Australia, with hundreds of thousands joining in key cities including Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra, Hobart, Perth, and Adelaide. The Greens leader, Larissa Waters, said she estimated it was the biggest gathering since those against the Iraq War. Across the country, Australians have been putting forward a united demand: free Palestine. In a major victory, shipping operators announced that weapons bound for Israel aboard the COSCO shipping Pisces would be sent back to their point of origin after Italian dockworkers refused to unload the cargo. Italian dockworkers framed the victory as part of a growing wave of international worker resistance to Israeli genocide. Solidarity from across Europe has poured in. Greece's all-workers militant front saluted Italian workers, declaring dockworkers in Europe, the Mediterranean, and elsewhere will not become accomplices of the murderous state of Israel and its allies, the USA, NATO, and the EU. They will not allow ports and infrastructure to become instruments of war for the slaughter of people by the imperialists. Italian workers are disrupting the supply chains of war, proving that organized labor can play a decisive role in resisting militarization and imperialism. Slovenia has taken a historic stand for Palestinian rights, becoming the first country in the European Union to impose a full arms embargo on Israel. Prime Minister Robert Golob announced that the country will ban the import, export, and transit of all weapons to and from Israel, citing the humanitarian crisis and the systemic denial of aid to Palestinians. This decisive action follows Slovenia's recognition of Palestinian statehood in June 2024 and its unprecedented move in July to declare two far-right Israeli ministers persona non grata for inciting extreme violence and serious violations of the human rights of Palestinians through their genocidal statements. Their actions highlight the racism of the countries who have not yet taken decisive action and will hopefully increase international pressure to do so. Hundreds of protesters, many over the age of 60, were arrested in London this month for expressing support for Palestine Action, a group recently prescribed as a terrorist organization by the UK government. At a demonstration in Parliament Square on August 9th, 532 people were detained, with half of them from the older generation, including retired military officers, clergy, and professionals. Participants say their age gives them a moral responsibility to protest, protecting younger people from the potential lifelong consequences of a terrorism conviction. Deborah Hinton, 81, a former magistrate and OBE recipient, described the arrests as farcical and insisted Palestine Action is not a terrorist organization, it's a direct action organization, comparing it to historic movements such as the suffragists. Her concern for Gaza and commitment to free speech motivated her to face arrest. The arrests highlight the growing tension between the UK government's prescription of Palestine Action and the right to protest, with older generations taking the lead in demonstrating for Gaza while shielding younger activists from potential legal repercussions. Many of those arrested emphasized that their actions were driven by conscience, historical memory, and a sense of duty to defend human rights and free expression. Inuit and Iqaluit marched for Palestine this month, voicing support for what one protest organizer called a fellow Indigenous nation. Imarutuk Angutimarek said it's important for Indigenous people to unite and show that we care about one another. She said the colonial injustice that Inuit have lived through, including forced relocations, share similarities to what Palestinians in Gaza have gone through and the injustice they are facing now. Iqaluit resident Meryl Jamal said everyone knows this here, but Inuit, first and foremost, know what a genocide is like, what starvation is like, what hunger is like, and what political failure is like in these contexts. Protesters marched across town shouting slogans like Inuit for Palestine, and then gathered at the Igluvut building for a throat-singing performance. Inuit solidarity with Gaza asserts that from Turtle Island to Palestine, occupation is a crime. Land back everywhere. Approximately 10,000 Air Canada flight attendants represented by the Canadian Union of Public Employees, or CUPE, defied a federal back-to-work order for 3 days in their first strike in 40 years. The government had invoked the Canada Labour Code to order an end to the strike and impose binding arbitration, marking the fourth time in a year it had used such measures against workers. The central issues for the flight attendants were demands for pay raises and, critically, to be paid for every hour worked, including the many unpaid hours spent on pre- and post-flight duties like safety checks and passenger assistance. The strike garnered widespread support from the broader labor movement. The Canadian Labour Congress and numerous other unions, including the Teamsters, whose own members had been forced back to work previously, declared solidarity and joined picket lines across the country. Union leaders framed the government's actions as an unconstitutional attack on the fundamental right to strike, vowing to stand united and face potential fines or jail time in support of the flight attendants' defiance. The dispute concluded when CUPE announced a deal had been reached, with the union declaring that unpaid work is over. The labor movement celebrated the outcome as a significant victory. The Canadian Labour Congress stated that the successful defiance should make any future employer considering relying on back-to-work legislation think twice, highlighting the confrontation as a pivotal moment for workers' rights. The workers at the Jeremias chimney factory in Gniezno, Poland, achieved a historic victory after a 42-day strike, the longest strike in Poland since 1989, and a 9-month collective struggle. Organized by the Workers' Initiative Labor Union, the strike compelled the company to comply with most of the workers' demands, including a 700 zloty, or PLN, wage increase and longer breaks. In October of 2024, the company hired the Polish law firm PCS, which was then associated with the infamous American law firm Littler, known for its specialization in union-busting tactics. But the workers received significant support from the socialist organization Czerwoni, or the Reds, and other left-wing groups, and their struggle gained nationwide support from workers in all sectors. They actively blocked trucks entering and leaving the factory by continuously walking along the sidewalks around the building, and their tenacity paid off. Congratulations to the workers. August 4th marked 42 years since Thomas Sankara took power in Burkina Faso, igniting a revolution that rekindled the spirit of African liberation. Though his assassination in October of 1987 attempted to silence his vision, the struggle for sovereignty endured, and it is alive today. In the southern Sahel, his legacy finds expression in the Alliance of Sahel States, uniting Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso into a bloc of 71.4 million people over 2.78 million kilometers squared. For the first time in decades, a regional coalition is confronting the entrenched imperialist structures of Francafrique and the Bretton Woods institutions. Guided by Sankara's maxim, "He who feeds you controls you," Captain Ibrahim Traore's government has nationalized key gold mines, directly challenging foreign corporate plunder. Rural cooperatives now receive 400 tractors and hundreds of motorized pumps, giving agricultural workers, who form the backbone of Burkina Faso's population, the tools to secure their own food. The AES movement is building a common market, unified passports, an alliance of Sahel states investment bank, and even exploring a regional currency to replace the CFA franc, a direct assertion of monetary sovereignty and a blow to French neocolonialism. These steps aim to reverse decades of wealth extraction and bridge the growth gap between CFA and non-CFA economies, demonstrating a commitment to economic justice. Sankara's spirit continues to inspire movements across the continent. On September 16th, the AES marked 2 years since its formation, a historic milestone in the pursuit of sovereignty. In a resounding victory, IT workers in Karnataka have successfully forced the state government to withdraw its proposals to increase maximum working hours in the IT sector. This hard-won triumph comes after months of relentless mobilization by the Karnataka IT and ITES Employees Union, or KITU, the sole registered union representing employees in the southern state's booming software industry. The Karnataka government's plan, which sought to extend working hours from 10 to 12, including overtime, was widely condemned as a corporate-friendly measure that sacrificed workers' rights and well-being for the benefit of big business. KITU, refusing to bow to government pressure, organized mass demonstrations, street-level campaigns, and stakeholder interventions to resist what it rightly described as a foolish and regressive attack on employees' fundamental right to a personal life. Scores of IT workers poured into the streets of Bangalore, Karnataka's capital and India's IT hub, to celebrate their victory, sending a clear message: the people who power the industry will not be exploited with impunity. The union's success is a testament to the power of collective action. KITU not only mobilized its registered members, but also reached out to unaffiliated employees across Bangalore's IT corridors, building solidarity and public support against the government's regressive plan. Karnataka's IT workers have proven that when labor stands together, even the most entrenched proposals to extend exploitation can be defeated. In a historic display of resistance and solidarity, over 100,000 people marched in London's Trans Plus Pride event in late July, marking the largest trans pride event in the world. The march, themed Existence and Resistance, was a direct response to the UK Supreme Court's recent ruling that the legal definition of a woman under anti-discrimination law is determined by biological sex, not gender identity, a decision that threatens to erase the rights and dignity of trans people. Following this, the Equality and Human Rights Commission issued guidance that trans people should not be permitted to use public facilities aligning with their gender, guidance widely criticized as both harmful and illegitimate. This was an emotional and powerful day, said co-founder Louis G. Burton. At a time when sweeping legal decisions are made without consulting a single trans person or organization, and when a well-funded anti-trans lobby dominates headlines and wastes public resources, our community came together to show what real strength, solidarity, and care looks like. Since its inception in 2019 as a grassroots alternative to the commercialized City Pride, London Trans Plus Pride has grown into a movement rooted in community power. This year's event drew over 40,000 additional participants compared to 2024, a clear signal that public resistance to erasure is growing stronger. Trans rights are human rights, and existence is resistance. Cuba has taken a historic leap forward for trans rights with the approval of a law allowing individuals to self-declare their gender without requiring surgery. The move marks a transformative moment in the country's ongoing struggle for LGBTQ+ equality. The law also modernizes Cuba's National Civil Registry, formally recognizing common law partnerships and introducing a process to digitize paper records, streamlining legal documentation for all citizens. This milestone builds on Cuba's groundbreaking reforms from 2022, when the nation approved a broad family code that legalized same-sex marriage, ensured LGBTQ+ inclusive protections, and recognized the right of LGBTQ+ couples to adopt children. On Kenya's shores at Merereni and Meadow Creek, a remarkable grassroots movement is breathing life back into the region's mangrove forests. Local women and youth, supported by the COBEC initiative and the nonprofit Sea Trees, are transforming once declining ecosystems into thriving coastal havens, demonstrating the power of community-led environmental action. On August 4th, young mangroves were planted across Meadow Creek, nurtured in local nurseries by passionate community members. The Nima Muslim Women Group has been at the forefront, collecting seeds and growing them with care, demonstrating that environmental stewardship and community empowerment go hand in hand. The restoration of millions of mangroves is already producing tangible benefits, reviving fish stocks, protecting the coastline from erosion, and strengthening local ecosystems. Kenya's coastal restoration is a reminder that sustainable futures are built not by distant authorities but by hands in the mud, revolutionary spirit in the work, and communities collaborating. The world has reached a historic tipping point. Solar and wind energy are now cheaper than coal, oil, or natural gas and are the fastest growing sources of electricity. In 2024, renewables accounted for nearly all new electricity capacity additions and drove most of the growth in the global generation, signaling the arrival of a new energy era. Advances in storage and grid management now allow renewable energy to compete on every front, even without factoring in climate goals. Despite this global shift, the United States continues to act as a barrier, denying climate science and supporting fossil fuel interests. Across the globe, however, nations are racing toward renewable solutions. China has been a global leader, and India is also rapidly expanding their clean energy capacity. And for most developing countries, the renewable route is both cheaper and more sustainable. In a breakthrough for the fight against ocean pollution, researchers in Japan have developed a plastic that dissolves in seawater within hours, offering a potential solution to the global plastic crisis. The material, created by scientists at the Riken Center for Emergent Matter Science and the University of Tokyo, breaks down rapidly without leaving microplastics or toxic residues, while retaining the strength of traditional petroleum-based plastics. This innovation comes amid stark warnings from the UN Environment Program that plastic pollution is set to triple by 2040. Non-toxic, non-flammable, and carbon neutral, this new plastic represents a promising step forward in addressing one of the planet's most pressing environmental challenges. If you have good news from the current month, please send your stories to mexi@protonmail.com. As mentioned, we have a special offer for viewers from MeansTV, which is a worker-owned cooperative dedicated to supporting and producing anti-capitalist media. The streaming service hosts us, along with other rad creators like Second Thought and Luna Oy, full-length documentaries like Abby Martin's Gaza Fights for Freedom, and Means original content like Means Morning News, Seriously Wrong's Papa and Boy, and much more. We're happy to announce that we are now able to offer viewers a discount on joining MeansTV. If you sign up using our link and code, which is MEXI, you'll get 20% off your first month, which comes to $7.99. Or you could go with the annual option and get 20% off the entire year. Signing up using our code not only directly contributes to the financial sustainability of the Means Cooperative Media Project, but it's also a great way to support our channel. So if you have the means, consider taking us up on the discount. The link and code are in the description box below. Thank you to Javi for the Positive News Jams. Thank you to Cosmo for the Positive News background. Thank you to me and Catherine for script writing and production and hosting. And thank you to the Hazels for editing this video. If you'd like to support the show, please go to patreon.com/positiveleftistnews, or you can give us a one-time tip via PayPal. The link is in the description box below.